Good morning and welcome to Core Finance CEO Interview. I'm Charlie Gibson. Now, as I always say, sometimes with companies the clue is in the name, and this particular company is one of those companies precisely. It's Latin for beneath the rock, beneath the layers of rock, and joining me is its CEO Adrian Pocock. The company itself is called Infrastrata. You see what I'm getting at, Adrian? Infrastrata?
Very good, Charlie.
All those years of Latin obviously paid off.
Wonderful. A wise investment.
So tell me, what is it you're doing beneath the rock?
Well, Charlie, we're creating the only gas storage facility in the whole of the island of Ireland, in Isla Magee in Northern Ireland. We are going to be creating 500 million cubic metres of natural gas storage, 1.2 kilometres underneath the ground in the 200-metre thick rock salt layer that is there. And it's a very important addition to the UK's gas storage, but it will also be the only storage in Ireland, which is very vulnerable to its gas supply. Reason being that there are only 3 small pipelines into Ireland as a whole, and the capacity of those is relatively small.
So you use 500 million cubic meters. Is that's the volume?
That's a lot.
Now that's difficult for most people to visualize. How big is 500 million cubic meters?
Well, when you pressurize the gas, it's the equivalent of about 8 Gherkin buildings underneath the rock.
8 Gherkin buildings in volume?
In volume.
In volume. So we've got 8 of those. So what you have to do, first of all, you've got this big rock salt layer beneath County Antrim in Northern Ireland, which is a kilometre and a bit down. Is it onshore or offshore?
It's a combination of both. We're actually going to be putting our storage facilities underneath Larn Loch. It's under the ground as well. The Permian salt layer runs through from Germany, Holland, under England, through Cheshire, where the majority of the large gas storage facilities are at the moment. And it carries on to Northern Ireland.
So this is just an extension of what we've got in this country, in the UK, in Cheshire, and this is the extension of it in County Antrim. So first thing is you have to dissolve out this rock, is that right?
That's right. It's an awful lot of rock, and
you do that by sticking water down.
Well, to simplify it, Charlie, you're drilling down, and then you're putting an enormous jet washer down, and you form caverns of a certain shape and size. Well, Gherkin building type shape, and they are physically stable and give you the optimum amount of storage for the volume of rock salt.
Okay, so then you put this big pressure washer down.
Yes.
And then you suck up loads of salt dissolved in water.
Right.
And then what happens to that?
Well, we have a choice, and we're investigating that at the moment, because if there's commercial value in it, and we can ship it straight onto barges, then we will exploit that. But it may be that the volumes are so massive that it has to be dispersed into the Irish Sea.
Okay, in which case the sea gets a little bit saltier.
Well, it does, but it's fairly salty already, and obviously we have done a big environmental survey to ensure that the output of brine isn't going to adversely affect the flora. Well, there won't be any flora, but the fauna. The fauna in the form of fish and
this is presumably the fauna which hasn't been already affected by the Sellafield power station, I'm assuming.
Well, I think with the general westward winds, we wouldn't be affected by anything from Sellafield. But gas.
No, I'm sure you wouldn't be. I think the fauna's already been pretty seriously affected already, I think, hasn't it?
Well,
so they said historically.
I think that's historic, and we wouldn't want to be involved in that in any way, shape or form.
Okay, so you create these caverns.
Yes, indeed.
And then you stick natural gas into them. Indeed. Now, can you sort of incrementally fill them up? So can you, as you pump them out, as you dissolve them out, can you fill them up at the same time, or do you have to form the cavern sort of as an empty space and then fill it up?
You're very perceptive. It's a phased development, Charlie, and the first 2 caverns will be created first of all and become operational, and then we will continue a sequential development thereafter.
Okay. Now, we talked a lot about the engineering and I suppose the business plan, but ultimately you're going to have these caverns which are full of natural gas, and then who are the buyers ultimately of this?
Well, it's general. The gas will go into the grid as a whole, and Ireland has very low levels of gas usage. Only 30% of homes in Ireland have a gas supply, mains gas supply.
As opposed to what in the UK?
Oh, I think we must be north of 90%.
Right.
So we've got an expanding market, and the government, through Mutual Energy, are rolling out a new network of gas supplies. So the increase in demand for gas in Ireland, that's an ever-growing thing. In addition, the closure of the coal and oil-fired power stations means that the demand for gas for electricity generation is increasing. And with the increase in solar power and wind power, ironically means that you need greater backup capability, because when the wind isn't blowing and the sun's not shining, you then become very reliant on generation of electricity from other sources.
To be fair, we do know the sun never shines in Ireland, one.
Well, it is at the moment, remarkably.
Well, there you are, as you say, remarkable. And the wind always blows. But anyway, but absolutely, you're right. So you need that backup. You need that quick on and offable potential the gas gives you in order to form a base load.
Indeed, and that is the beauty of salt cavern storage. Because it's a big hole in the ground, you can put the gas in quickly when it's available cheaply during the summer, etc., and you can take it out very rapidly. The rate of withdrawal of these salt cavern facilities is much better than the old type, which might be sandstone, where the gas comes out slowly. So the ability to trade the gas is much greater with a salt cavern storage facility, and we are in a unique position in that we are the only gas cavern storage that has not only EU grant assistance, because we're of importance to Northern Ireland and also to the Republic of Ireland, and we also have government backing, which means that we're part of the UK guarantee scheme, which means that we can borrow the money to finance the bulk of the project at a very competitive rate, which gives us a unique advantage.
So we keep talking about Ireland, but there is the north and the south. There is a border between those two things. Does that affect? Can you seamlessly sell into the south as well as into the north?
Indeed, there's a number of projects at the moment connecting the two grids.
And the pipes just flow straight through, so your gas can be used in Dublin or County Cork, or
indeed it will,
wherever it ends up. Are the Irish, are they expanding there? Because you said only 30% of homes have access to gas. Are they expanding their gas pipeline network?
Yes, indeed, and also investing in gas-powered electricity generation, which is obviously the biggest user. So yes is the answer to that, Charlie.
So two things. One is, where is the nearest power station that's going to use this gas?
Immediately adjacent. We're right next door.
So is that your power station, or is that
Sadly
one
not.
No, right. So that's one that's already there, which runs off gas already?
Indeed, yes.
Right. So how do they get their gas at the moment?
It comes across what's known as the SNP, which is the Scotland Northern Ireland pipeline. That's immediately adjacent not only to Ballylumford Power Station, but also to us. And in terms of other hub connections, we also have the Moyle interconnector, which is a 500 megawatt electricity connector between the UK mainland and Northern Ireland. So we are right at the energy hub of Northern Ireland.
So do you have an offtake agreement with said Ballymumford Power Station?
Ballylumford.
Ballylumford. Do you have an offtake agreement? And why are they going to take your gas instead of the gas that comes down the Scottish pipeline?
We are not directly linking up with Ballylumford at this stage, though perhaps in later phases. The people who can make the greatest profit out of our facility are the very large gas traders, because it enables them to buy on seasonal low prices and then to sell seasonal high prices during the winter, etc. So they're the ones that can make the most money out of our facility, and projections show that because of our unique geographical location, it's highly likely that we'll have the most profitable gas storage facility in the whole of the UK.
So humanly, Brexit, I'm sure you've thought of this before, but and all the conversations and concerns and controversy we've had about the the border and is it hard and is it soft, but with the possibility, or some would say the probability of the UK falling out of the EU, does that affect your access to the Republic of Ireland gas market?
The answer to that is no. But what it does do is it means that because all of the gas that will be going into our facility is coming through the national grid, some of that's coming from the North Sea gas fields, but that's being depleted. But a lot of our gas comes from Russia and through the pipeline network from Holland and all the rest of it. And after Brexit, we won't be able to call on gas immediately like we can at the moment as part of the EU. After Brexit, if there's massive demand in France or Holland or whatever, we can't demand it. They could shut off the pipes if they wanted. So that means that our facility is going to become increasingly important.
So this gives us energy security.
That's
so to
the
speak.
very term, yes. And as you know, with the beast from the east earlier in the year, we got to almost a critical point where industry was having to shut down because there wasn't sufficient pressure in the grid to supply everybody's gas requirements.
So do you buy the gas, put it in your own cavern and sell it? Or do you rent out your cavern so that some major, let's say British Gas, can put their gas in it and they rent it from you and then they sell it?
It's the latter.
Right.
The intention is, and we're in advanced negotiations with a number of parties on long-term agreements whereby they will be effectively renting the space from us. And those negotiations are moving ahead very well. But as you realise, when you're entering into very long-term agreements, it doesn't happen overnight. But we are very encouraged by progress to date.
So just from an engineering perspective, you've done an environmental study. Have you done a sort of feasibility study, a bankable feasibility study concerning the... well, what's CapEx? How much it costs to dissolve out a cavern in Northern Ireland?
The whole project is in the order of £300 million.
And your market cap is?
Well, we're currently standing about 4.5 million.
Okay, so you're not going to equity finance that?
You're exactly right. Again, very perceptive. And on that note, we are in very advanced talks with a number of major funds who are very keen on the prospect of a secure income underpinned by a blue chip organisation with a project life expectation of 40 years. And gas will become very important during that time. There's no prospect of us not using gas. And there are countries like Qatar who have 500 years worth of natural gas, which they're very happy to export to us. So I think that the likelihood is that even in 40 or 50 years' time, we will still be significantly dependent on electricity that's generated by gas.
So so where are you? I was going to ask you about the engineering study. Where are you in terms of the engineering studies?
We're currently on board with the front-end engineering design works known as the FEED. We are ahead of programme, below budget. That will be completed in December of this year, and it's that element of the project that has been partially funded by the European Union, being a project of common interest because it's of interest to more than one member state. That's going extremely well, and we've got an excellent team, not only in-house now, we've recruited a couple of new people who are incredibly good. Costain are running the above service element of the FEED programme, and a German company called Deep, who are Europe's best, are doing the subsurface element of that.
So, and what are the timelines on this?
Well, the FEED will be finished by December. It'll take us probably 3 to 6 months to finalise the construction, and we hope we're expecting to be in the commence the construction phase next year.
And how long will the construction phase take?
The first element will be in the order of 2 years, and then it'll be a sequential rollout of the further caverns.
So we could be looking at at positive cash flow in what, 2022, thereabouts?
We're hoping to be 2021.
2021, okay, for positive cash flow. Financing, presumably, I mean, as far as the bank's concerned, this is almost a property transaction, presumably.
Exactly.
And they finance it, and then they get debt finance, and then you pay them interest.
Well, we have the UK guarantee scheme, which I mentioned, which has been used for things like Hinkley C, the big Ineos refinery at Grangemouth, and essentially the government underwrites the principal sum of the debt and all of the interest, and it means that it's risk-free lending for the banks, which means that we will get a far more competitive rate of interest than any other similar project.
Is this the export credit guarantee?
No, it's similar to that.
Similar to that.
It's called the UK guarantee scheme, and it's used for major infrastructure projects.
Of which this is clearly one. So just quickly, in your wildest dreams, where are you in say, 4 years' time? All right, yeah, actually, I'll tell you what, the more precise question. First cash flow in 2021. How long does it take until you finish all the caverns?
Well, it's a sequential development, as I say. The whole programme's in the order of 5 years.
Okay.
But
so 2026, you're at sort of maximum steady state, is that?
Absolutely.
Thereabouts. And then what does your profit and loss look like?
That's a very leading question.
It certainly is.
And it's one that I'm not going to be drawn on. However, I can say that the way things are at the moment in terms of the gas market and all the rest of it, it's better than we hoped for. So you'll understand that for reasons of commercial confidentiality, I can't share that with you at this stage.
All right, understood. Adrian, thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Adrian Pocock, the Chief Executive of Infrastrata, doing great things beneath the layers of rock up in County Antrim in Northern Ireland. I'm very much afraid that's all we've got time for, but join me next week where we'll be looking at more companies with more exciting projects on a subsurface level. And until then, you have a very capital day.